What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. In the first week of the NHL season is now in the books, so I decided to turn it over to you guys to give me your hot takes. I love to hear from you guys. Love to get your hot takes here and there about the season. And yeah, some of these hot takes are going to be massive overreactions. Some might be slight overreactions that I can maybe see happening. But let's not waste any time because obviously it was a pretty wild first week when you have teams like Edmonton, Colorado Avalanche, Nashville after what they did this offseason all go defeated, and some other guys just absolutely break out. Jonathan Huberdeau, 3 goals and 2 assists. So let's hear the takes. Up first, we got it from Vic. Caufield, 40 goals. And yeah, after the impressive goal scoring start that he had, especially I saw a tweet comparing Austin Matthews, who was scoreless, I could definitely see 40. I think, I don't know if I went on the record officially saying 40, but I fully expected at least a 35 goal season from Cole Caufield this year, considering the fact that he still had 28 last year and he shot 9%. So I don't think 40 is like that hot of a take. I know that might sound crazy, but given the start, given the fact that first line is really cooking, and the fact Lane Hudson has looked so good that he might end up on that top power play and be even better than a Mike Matheson, Cole Caufield is going to eat. If he plays 82 games, I'd set it at like 39 goals at this point. He is such a gifted goal scorer, and he's finally getting some puck luck this year compared to last year. And 2 years ago, he was actually on pace for like 48 goals. So I think Cole Caufield definitely can hit 40 goals. I don't think that is that hot of a take. Got to stay healthy, obviously. If he misses 5 to 10 games, it's probably cooked, but I like that hot take. We got one from Cook saying McDavid ends the season under 115 points. We got to pump the brakes on this one when looking at it, considering the fact that the Oilers started off horrible last year, and he only had like 12 in his first 13. He finished with 132. He ended up having 100 assists. If you said under 125, I can maybe see where you're coming from, but he still has 2 points in his first 3 games. The Oilers are going to start shooting the puck better. They were horrendous in their first 2 games, and even in their third game only had 1 goal. They're going to start scoring. I have no doubt that power play is going to start heating up. Am I confident in like the 142 points that I predicted at the start of the season? Maybe not as much now, but I still would put him at around like 137, 138, 115 would be crazy. I don't know. When was the last time that he put up below 115-point pace? 2019, 2018 maybe? He's an absolute monster. He's going to get back on track. From Matt, Clayton Keller over 90 points. I can see this happening. I don't think that this is that hot of a take. I think 95 points probably would be a hot take at this point, considering the fact that he has 3 points in his first, or 6 points in his first game. Games he has looked very good. He has hit like 85 points in a season before. This Utah top 6 looks very good. The power play should be very efficient, and the fact that Barrett Hayden is looking very good was really surprising me. I think Nick Schmaltz is going to be around 65, 70 points, but if Barrett Hayden, he's definitely the third wheel on that line, don't get me wrong, but if he can be a competent 55 to 60 point guy and help set up Clayton Keller and also score on some of Clayton Keller's passes, I expect Clayton Keller to hit the 90-point mark. This is more of a hot take from Ibrahim J. Kyle Connor finishes more goals than Austin Matthews. And yes, early on, Austin Matthews is still goalless. Not saying that this is impossible. I think that this would be more likely than Connor McDavid, assuming Connor McDavid is healthy, going below 115 points. I'd put this at like 10%, 12% maybe. Austin Matthews is definitely going to get back on track, but I think Kyle Connor definitely could go for 50 goals this season. That wouldn't massively shock me, and they might need him to, considering they lost guys like Monahan and Toffoli who were deadline acquisitions, but they lost them at this offseason. What am I saying? Kyle Connor definitely is going to have a lot on his plate in terms of carrying the Jets from a goal scoring perspective, but Austin Matthews still should be hitting 60 goals. There's been years prior when he gets slow out of the gate, and then in a 4-game stretch, he has 7 or 8 goals, and he's back on 60 goal pace. So let's relax. Similarly to Connor McDavid, let's relax. These guys outside of, Matthews was kind of disappointed in the 2023 season, but these guys have been just so dominant in their respective, in terms of getting points and goals. The last 4 seasons, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. From Sean, Lafreniere is a point per game player this year. I'm not going to rule it out. That is definitely a hot take. He did have 59 points last year playing with Trocheck and Panarin. Point per game might be a little bit tough because I don't really see him getting that bump to the top power play unless they move down like a Mika Zibanejad. Again, going point per game with not top power play time most of the time would be extremely difficult to do for Lafreniere, but if he gets that bump, it's definitely possible. I would put this at like a 5 to 10% chance. I think he's going to take a step to 65, 66 points this year, but getting to that point per game mark would just be extremely hard, especially when you have a guy like Panarin last year have 120 points. Not sure he's going to be able to replicate that in terms of even strength. So the odds are definitely stacked up against Lafreniere there. From James, Vancouver making it, finishing in the wild card. Vancouver as a wild card team. Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by this. They have not looked that good in their first 2 games, and considering the fact that Vegas has looked so good in their first 3 games, now what would be the other team to pass the Vancouver Canucks is still where I would say that they are most likely going to end up being a divisional team. And Edmonton, I had Edmonton over Vancouver, and they look like absolute shit. So the fact that no other team is really emerging, again, it's only 2 to 3 games, I'd still say that this is definitely a hot take. I would have them as the second team or the third team as of right now, but I could see it happening. I could see the LA Kings. LA Kings have looked okay without Drew Doughty, so if they can just stay afloat, maybe they could finish higher than the Vancouver Canucks. Seattle Kraken haven't really impressed me that much thus far. The Flames have obviously impressed, but I don't think that they're going to be better than Vancouver, so I'm still against this, but based on the start, based on how good Vegas is going, you could definitely convince me that they're going to be the third best team, maybe even a wild card team. From Sammy, Wool battles injuries, and Stolarz is a top 10 goalie. And yeah, Stolarz has looked very good out of the gate while Wool is dealing with these injuries. I could see that. Stolarz last year had a 925 in like 26 games. He was better on a per game basis than Bobrovsky. And even, it wasn't just that. It wasn't just he was only good on Florida. 2 seasons ago, or 3 seasons ago at this point, with the Anaheim Ducks, he had like a 917 on one of the worst teams in the entire NHL. So I think Stolarz was a really big pick. I'm biased. He's from New Jersey. He's from Monmouth County, the same county that I grew up for. So although he plays for the Toronto Maple Leafs, I hope he has a great season. And I think that he is a very underrated goaltender. I'm surprised that other teams, like the Colorado Avalanche, like an Edmonton Oilers, didn't decide to go spend $2.5 million on a Stolarz instead of like a Jeff Skinner or Irvington. I still really like those moves. I think those were good moves, but I think Stolarz was a really good pickup. And I said it before on my hot takes on my podcast and the box. Go check it out. I said that this Leafs tandem is going to finish top 5 in the NHL in save percentage. I'm sticking to it. Wool needs to stay healthy. Wool needs to play at least like 35 games for that to happen. I think if Stolarz has to play 55, 60 games, he's going to get tired because he's never really been a true starter. But as long as I can see Wool playing 45 to 50 games and being a pretty effective guy, is at the end of the day is what I'm saying. We got this from RPW11. Celebrini, 70-plus points as long as the injury is minor. And yeah, that's going to be tough just because he's already guaranteed missing 4 games. So you're saying 70 points in 78 games. Based on that debut, I don't think you're that crazy for saying that. Again, I'm not sure the San Jose Sharks are going to be that high-powered of an offensive force this season. But at this point, yeah, I'd say Celebrini looks like he can go for 60, 65, even with missing these 4 games. 70 points, that would be, with 70 and 78 would be like about the same, maybe even a higher points per game pace than Connor Bedard, maybe a little bit lower. What did Bedard have, 61 and 68? I don't think he's going to be that good. He does have more help around him than a Connor Bedard, but still, I can't quite go 70 points after just 1 game of seeing him at the national hockey level. We got this from Julian, Auger Julian. Nashville misses the playoffs. And yeah, Nashville is 0-2 right now. Granted, that first game, they didn't have UC Saros. They did get shut out by Cam Talbot, though. I think Nashville is going to figure it out. You got to realize that 3 out of their 6 best skaters just got added to the team. It's not going to be like a seamless. I think Brunette's going to figure it out quick, but it's not going to be a seamless transition when you have that much high impact guys coming in. And again, Saros injured, then got thrown to the fire. Not thrown to the fire. Detroit's not some like super team, but then immediately had to hop back in fresh off an injury. I still think Nashville's going to make the playoffs. Am I as confident per se now after seeing a team like the Winnipeg Jets really come out of the gates firing? I'd still have Winnipeg in the playoffs, but they might be a wild card team potentially instead of a team safely making it in the Central Division. We got this from Matt. Flames take a wild card spot. And when looking at it, they are 3-0, and they have 2 pretty damn good wins with the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks, and then they also beat Philadelphia. They beat Philadelphia. It would be an amazing story. As you guys know, I went pretty hard on their under of 81.5. I look like an absolute idiot right now. I still don't think that their defense core is good enough to potentially be a playoff team. Maybe Dustin Wolf is just that good and he can overcome it. I could see them battling for a spot, but again, there's just so many people in the Western Conference that are fighting to make the playoffs and will do aggressive things at the deadline, fire coaches. I don't really see that being the case with Calgary. They'd be happy to be an 85-point team. Guys like Connor Zary, Martin Pospisil, Matt Coronado take that next step, but they're not going to be like aggressively buying it. They're probably still going to sell, even if they are somewhat in the mix. If Mantha, you're not going to re-sign him at 29 years old. Kuzmenko, like they still got to think big picture, and as a result, I would put the chances of them making the playoffs at like 1%. I won't say 0, but like genuinely 1%. We got this from F Smart 17. Eichel Hart finalist. And yeah, if he plays all 82 games, he could definitely be in the mix. He's playing great right now. He has like 7 points in 3 games. The only problem is, I mean, he is made of glass. Not like Mark Stone level, but he is always good for around a 10 to 15 game injury every single season. He hasn't played over 68 games since the COVID shutdown in 2020. So the injuries is just he's just far too injured. He is going to have to carry this Vegas team a decent amount, don't get me wrong. And yeah, if he is healthy, I could see him getting 100 points even, but that might not even be enough to be a Hart finalist, considering the fact last year it was Kucherov, McDavid, McKinnon, all above 32 points or more. So it's highly unlikely, but I like the boldness on that, considering just how good he's playing right now. We got this from SPKYO. Huberdeau, 80-plus point season. And yeah, going back to the Calgary Flames, Huberdeau looks great. 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points in 3 games thus far, playing with Martin Pospisil and Anthony Mantha, 2 more so speed and kind of physicality guys that blend really good with Jonathan Huberdeau. He's looking like his 2022 form. It's only 3 games, but he has looked like a completely different player from what I saw. Is he going to be able to keep that up? I'd still say no. But I think he can go for 65, 70 points. That would be a massive win for Flames fans, considering he had back-to-back mid-50-point seasons and is 31 years old. I think he's going to get back on track to a degree. 80-plus points for a team that doesn't really wow me that much offensively, and although I think those players on his line are more suited towards his play style than, say, prior line mates in Calgary, they're still not like stars at the end of the day. So I don't think 80 points is going to happen. But yeah, I'd say 65 points is maybe what you project for him based on this hot start, which would be a massive win for the Calgary Flames. Next up, Matt says Montembeault ends top 5 for the Vezina. Now, when looking at this, if you're talking top 5 in the Vezina, you usually have to be a goaltender on a playoff team. In fact, I went through the last 3 or 4 years of Vezina trophy voting. When looking at it, the only guy to not make the playoffs and still be top 5 was UC Soros in 2023. He played 67 games, had a 918 or 919. So he was fantastic, and they were almost a playoff team. They missed it just barely that year. I'm forgetting. I think Winnipeg just barely made it over them. So that's what we're talking about to be a Vezina top 5. Maybe he could be a top 5 analytical goalie, but voters still care about that save percentage, still care about that goals against average, and I just don't think the Canadians are going to be in the mix come playoff time, come the end of the season, and he's probably going to get lit up sooner rather than later, considering the fact that the Montreal Canadiens are second in the entire NHL right now. In terms of expected goals against, only the Tampa Bay Lightning are ahead of them, but they only played 1 game. The fact that he's saved them so much to this point. Analytically, he might be a darling this year, but in terms of actually getting Vezina votes, I don't really see it happening. Matt Babb, 33, rains on Utah's parade when he says, Utah is a fun story, but the defense will catch up to them. No chance they make the playoffs. No chance they make the playoffs is crazy. They started out 3-0. They lost today to the New Jersey Devils right after I'm recording this, basically, or right before I was recording this. I still would pick against Utah, and I said this on my podcast earlier today before they even lost today's game. I think people are overhyping them a little bit. I'm not going to lie. They've had a very good start, but they did beat Chicago. They did beat my New York Islanders, who choked away another third-period lead. They looked very good against the Rangers, but yeah, as Matt Babb says there, it was a shootout. Their defense was not able to slow down. Granted, it was the New York Rangers. There still might be some defensive concerns with this Utah Hockey Club. I'm more concerned about Connor Ingram at this point. He is not looking like he did last season. So yeah, I think defense and goaltending might hold this team back, but in terms of goal scoring, they're going to be able to probably finish top 10 in terms of goals for. Next up, we got this from, I can't even attempt to pronounce his name, sorry, man, but Florida will be a wild card team or 3rd in the Atlantic at best. Injuries will catch up to them. I asked for these questions last night, and that was right after Tkachuk apparently dealing with illness, Barkov being out. They won today against the Boston Bruins, but yeah, I predicted them to be third in the Atlantic Division this season, in part because of that. When looking at it, they have been dealing with some injuries and just like fatigue back-to-back years of making the Stanley Cup final. I had the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Boston Bruins ahead of them, so yeah, today's result didn't really help me out in that regard, but I can definitely see that happening. And again, we're talking still being third in the division or wild card team. We're not saying they're missing the playoffs, but yeah, back-to-back cup final runs. I'm not sure they're going to be as engaged come regular season time, and I could see that happening. From Ben, over 40 for Guenther this season, 5 goals in 3 games thus far. I could see it. Would I bet on it? No, not really. I don't think that would be a smart bet, but I think that he'll be around the 30s. He is that talented of a goal scorer, and if you want to argue for him scoring 40, he put up like 32 goal pace last year when he had 17 goals, 18 assists for 35 points in 45 games last year. Every single level, this guy has been a monster goal scoring wise, so I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would probably say for 40 is just such an elite number. I'd say a 15% chance, which is still very high for a guy that's, 21 years old. That would be insanely impressive. Could see it happening, especially with someone like Logan Cooley passing him the puck. But as of right now, I'd bet against it. We got this from Brady. Colorado misses the playoffs because of their goaltending. Misses the playoffs entirely. I don't know if I can get behind that, considering the fact that last year, Georgiev had an 897 and they still safely made the playoffs. I think that they could definitely be battling for a wild card spot. I just mentally can't comprehend like a Nathan McKinnon, Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, big three missing the playoffs. They're just so elite. And right now, they are missing Arturi Lehkonen and Valery Nichushkin and if Landeskog comes back. So they're not even at full strength right now. They're missing 2 damn good 60 to 70 point two-way wingers. So we got to factor that in as well. It's very not encouraging. They still have Justus and Nunnan who can hopefully carry some of the load if Georgiev's slacking. I still think they're going to be a safe playoff team. Contending-wise, I'm a little bit concerned because Georgiev has been so bad. But in terms of making the playoffs, I'm not going to massively overreact to this. And then lastly, from Andy, the Islanders are not very good. And I don't really know anything about the Islanders right now. They play Colorado tonight. Colorado will probably get lights out goaltending, and they'll probably be 0-2-1. I'm not going to massively overreact. I'm disappointed that they blew that lead when looking at it after what happened last year when they blew like 10 third-period leads. It was very unfortunate. I didn't think for a second once we got to overtime that we were winning. But I'm not going to overreact. We lost to them, Utah, their second ever game, coming off that high of winning their first game. And then we played the Dallas Stars. I didn't expect to win that game. It'll be more telling later on in this week when we play teams that are kind of our level in the Eastern Conference. Not going to massively overreact, but yeah, definitely a not ideal start for my New York Islanders. But let me know in the comments. I went for like 17 minutes. God damn. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this video? What do you think about some of these takes? Drop your hot takes down below, and I'll react to them. And I'll be seeing the next one. Podcast coming out tomorrow.